He's the man that heads the leading political party in Russia. He's been considered Forbes' most powerful person in the world for 4 consecutive years, from 2013 to 2016. He's the man that rides bears. That one was a lie, but this next one isn't. He goes fishing bare-chested, and he's also the man that made one of Russia's most powerful billionaires, Oleg Deripaska, look like a kitty cat instead of the tiger he usually is. So, join us as we see if Vladimir Putin is the richest man in the world. Let's dive right into it, shall we? Before we even begin to talk about his wealth, we want to set up some ground rules. This is not going to be a conspiracy theory video. What we're trying to do is figure out how a man with a salary of just $113,000 and an 800 square foot apartment managed to buy a $1 billion home. This is why we're going to be looking at the facts, the statistics, and we're going to let you decide if Russia's president has just $200,000 of net worth like he claims. Because, as we all know, Russia is the 129th on the Corruption Percentage Index with a score of only 30, while Denmark is number 1 with a score of 88. So, you could say that corruption is rampant in this country. If you don't believe these numbers are true, then take a look at the ruling party of Russia, United Russia. It holds 336 of the 450 seats in the Russian parliament. And yes, all but the first president of Russia, Boris Yeltsin, have belonged to the same political party, United Russia. In fact, there were only 3 presidents in the 30 years of democracy. Yeltsin was president from 1991 to 1999, and Putin replaced him until 2008. Because the law allowed for only 2 terms in office, the current leader of United Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, ran for president, won in 2008, and had Parliament change the law. How exactly? Well, Parliament voted for an indefinite presidential term, and each term was prolonged from 4 to 6 years in office. Putin was prime minister at the time. So when Medvedev's term came to an end, Putin ran for president once again. He won that election and the one after that, and we don't think anyone will vote him out of office until his death. That's why some call him Russia's Tsar. So how much money does the Tsar of one of the most corrupt countries in the world have in his bank account? Just as much as we said earlier. Back in 2007, when he was running for president, he was forced to smash that like button if you haven't done so already. But no, he was actually forced to disclose his wealth. He said that he only had one 800 square foot apartment to his name, about $150,000 in foreign bank accounts, and of course, some of the cars to his name. When you add all of this up with his wife Lyudmila's net worth of $260,000, then you get a net worth that's close to about $500,000. Then, how come major magazines and media outlets say that he has a lot more wealth than he actually discloses to the public? We've managed to find some answers to this question, and some of them you might not like. The first one is pretty simple. The Soviet Union was a socialist country. This means that the country controlled the means of production. The state owned all of the 45,000 factories, big and small, across the country. What happens to those enterprises when the old system collapses and is replaced by a new and seemingly better system? To privatize the companies and make sure everyone gets a share, the country passed privatization vouchers to each citizen of the country. Each got a fair share of checks, and they could buy any shares of any company they wanted. But what happens when you give impoverished people a check they could buy stock with? Why, they traded in for money. The population barely had anything to eat back then. The country was struggling, and when the population is starving, they can't really think about owning stock in some oil company. They quickly traded their privatization vouchers for money, and the rich people at the time got almost all of the checks from the poor people. Now, they were free to buy up stock in almost any company they pleased. About 20 people were responsible for 50 to 70% of Russian finances. They had massive control over major companies, as well as the government, so President Boris Yeltsin couldn't control the rich oligarchs. When Putin won the presidential elections in 2000, he called forth a meeting with 21 of the richest oligarchs in the country in the same year. He told them that they can keep their companies, but told them that they can no longer wield any power in the Kremlin. With this, Putin was ready to begin the neooligarchy. What is that then? Well, this is a new class of business people and government leaders that Putin tailored specifically for him. They were the kids on the block that were supposed to replace the old rich geezers that were messing up the Tsar's plan. He took some of his most trusted people from the military, security, and other sectors and placed them in high-ranking government positions, as well as giving them leading roles in powerful companies, especially in the oil business. They pledged their loyalty, and the ruler wishfully gave them any position they pleased. After this power change, Putin started to slowly shift the political landscape. The old class of oligarchs were slowly arrested as the country took legal action against them. The first ones to take a hit were the ultra-rich that owned media companies and spoke against Putin. One by one, they all fell like dominoes, and slowly but surely, the new order of power players was setting in. If you think that this is just some crazy conspiracy theory against Russia, then look at the state-owned companies. You will see that Gazprom, the very company we wanted to talk about, is owned more than 50% by the state. The company's revenue in 1 year was $150 billion. Sources say that Putin owns 4.5% stake in the oil giant. Now, those shares are not in his name for obvious reasons. Here's where those neo-oligarchs we talked about come into play. They're appointed to high-ranking positions in the company, and they own a large percentage of the shares, and a part of those shares are actually owned by the Tsar himself. We have sources telling us that these are just the tip of the iceberg. Putin has a large stake in many other companies aside from Gazprom. Some of those include 37% stake in Surgutneftegas, 50% stake in Gunvor. All of these are oil companies, and the CEO of Gazprom is Alexei Miller, the guy that served with the Committee for External Relations of the St. Petersburg Mayor's Office under Putin between 1991 and 1996. When Putin seized office, he was appointed Deputy Minister of Energy, and he was appointed Gazprom CEO in 2001 by Putin. Well, these facts are falling in like Tetris blocks. One of the most outrageous possessions of Putin must have been his $1.35 billion home that people call Putin's Palace. The place is outrageously big, and it sits on an estate of 17,691 square meters. There's even a financing scheme that people have developed to explain how we managed to finance such an endeavor. And even though the exact numbers are not disclosed, let's just say that this is actually possible. Nonprofit organizations with a 35% cut of the earnings, grandchildren of Putin's uncles, and nationally owned banks with 12% stake in them, all of these are but a few parts of the complex financing scheme of the company that is Putin. As a final note, we should mention that Bill Boder, the CEO of Hermitage Capital, has said that Putin's estimated net worth is somewhere around $200 billion. And yet, the only thing we can say with certainty is that President Putin only owns $200,000 to his name in a country with one of the highest corruption indexes in the world. On a related note, we wanted to know what you think about Russia's army. Is it the most powerful in the world? You can tell us in the comment section below. If you'd like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.